Hello, and welcome. Okay, guys, here we go. We're recording, everybody. You hear all this noise in the background? That is students talking because we're recording another live podcast. This is History After Hours podcast, episode 5 for
yeah.
Friday, October 16th, 2015. How's it going? How's everybody doing?
Welcome.
How are y'all doing?
Good morning.
Okay, so students, we have once again about 35, 40 people, most of them looking at their phones. That's okay. However, we're going to record a live podcast, and we're going to debate some topics. And if you guys have some questions, you can come up here and ask us a question or whatever. So let's go. With me, as always, or actually, they were on the last podcast because we just did that about 30 minutes ago. But John Mark Pierce and
Hello.
Ron Franklin.
Hey.
And my name is Kevin Pumphrey, and we're the three of the history teachers here at Lakeside. Just want to say that the views we say don't necessarily represent those of Lakeside High School. So there you go. All right. What do y'all want to talk about? You got any topics you'd like for us to discuss?
I've got the whole list, so we could just throw stuff out. We had what we like to have is student interaction. So if we have anybody that has a pertinent topic that they want to throw out there just to hear us ramble on or to argue about, then that'd be great too. So
Current events, something like
that.
that.
Any current or non, so whichever. Anybody have something they want to come up and say? You can come up here to the mic and give us something that we can talk about. If not, then we'll come up with our own. Got one? Oh, we got a volunteer
Looks
right
like
here.
Canyon's going to.
Come up here and give us your name. Say your name.
I'm Canyon Geisman, and I'm just coming up for a quick question. In the United States, we have two major political parties. How do you believe third parties such as socialists, libertarians, Greens, etc., can expand their population of their party in a expectable and reasonable way?
That's a very good question.
That's a very lucid and intelligent
That's very good.
That's very great. The simple answer is they can't. No, that's not me shooting him down. It's difficult for a third party to rise in the United States, and we've batted this around a little bit before. We have so much money that is tied in with the other two, Republicans and Democrats. It's difficult for anyone to come up with the kind of financial backing for a third party to rise up. And I'm not saying that it can't happen. Just to be honest with you, it could happen, but it's going to take a lot of money. And right now, everybody seems to be willing and more than willing to sink their money into the other two. So we're still working with levels here. We're doing.
Oh, yeah, I'm over here just tinkering with volume levels
Okay.
because.
Right, so, what do you think about that, Pierce?
I think if you want to, and you're correct in saying, I think if you want to look at a pure form of that, if you take away the money aspect and maybe even the media blitz from it, I think it's going to have to be terms of popularity and getting their name out. But that goes into the whole financial backing, media backing as well, and so it could happen, be super difficult.
Do you think that an avenue for that to take place would be for one or two candidates to get elected to, say, state legislatures, and then maybe even get bumped up to, get some national exposure when they go to either the House of Representatives or the Senate, in D.C. And then once you get that sort of rolling, once they become more and more entrenched, then they can recruit other people to their cause, and maybe that's the way that would need to take
Kind
place.
of a draft almost.
Yeah, kind of. But once you get a few people in, then that sort of opens the door for more people. But I think that until you have people who, Bernie Sanders right now, he's big on the presidential campaign trail and drawing a lot of people, and he clearly states that he is he's running for the Democratic Party, but at the same time he's a socialist, and he isn't shy about saying that, which is interesting to me because that's been a real problem word for us historically, to say the word socialism. I mean, even if people are sort of leaning that direction, they don't even like to admit it, because there's been witch hunts in this country based on the ideas of socialism / communism in the past, and it's likely to still be that. People don't like to. It's an ugly word to a lot of folks, and that's an interesting
people will say
reason.
they don't like socialism, but they can't really explain why they don't like it.
True.
Or what aspect about it they don't like. They just know it's bad.
Well, bad in terms of Americans, I guess. Especially
Yeah, I mean, because we personal liberty, freedom, small government. These are some virtues that our country was founded on. I mean, Jefferson and some of those guys, they wanted a tiny little national government.
But if you go back to socialist ideas, if you read Marx, if you go back and read Communist Manifesto, the idea that he's got in place is that government will, you want to talk about small government, the idea that government will be non-existent if we play this the right way because society will take care of itself. I mean, that's the ultimate. So all these people that are on the right wing going, we need small government. Why not try socialism and communism? Because that's what they were advocating originally. And I don't think that they would ever take that into consideration. But it's an interesting thought.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Once again, that was a very good question.
It would be difficult to answer the question.
What I don't even know. I was messing with volume levels.
Talking about what would it take for a real third party to rise up?
Maybe socialist
it's nearly
or
impossible
Green
in our
Party.
current system. However, we've had a few attempts. Teddy Roosevelt lost the election of 1912, came back with the Bull Moose Party, and made some waves, got some electoral votes. Ross Perot, 92. Was it 92?
It's
92,
90-ish, yeah.
It was him and Bush and Clinton, I guess.
Right.
I mean, he had an independent party, I guess, and did well. He was in the debate. That's about it. Have we had another third party?
Not truly. I mean, you have
Trump could do it.
Ralph Nader until recently has been a sort of perpetual third party guy, but nobody's taken him. Like I said, the best thing you can do as a third party platform member right now is to try to get your views out there enough so that one of the other two parties ends up picking it up as one of their platform planks. That's the best you can kind of hope for now. And again, it all ties in, I think, more with money. Because you need media exposure. You need people to look at you and say, you know what, that's something I think I can grab a hold of. And until you do that, until people see an investment in that idea, it's probably not going to go mainstream. So third parties are going to be out.
Let's play this out. Okay, so Trump gets narrowly defeated in the Republican Party.
All right.
And he decides to create a brand new party. What is he calling it? What would Trump?
Donald.
Trumpite sounds like something that's a fossil, so we can't do that. What would these call his party?
Anybody got any? What do you think?
I don't know. It's going to be huge. Trump. What now? Trumptorians. Maybe.
The Trumpeteers.
The comb-overs.
That's a good one.
Trumpeteers. Ooh, that's a good one too. I like all of those. The comb-overs. Come over here and vote for me.
If y'all see that picture of Donald Trump with a man bun, have y'all seen that?
No.
It reminds me of James Rowe. Every time I see that.
Just because of the bun or because of the attitude?
Bun.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard somebody talking about James the other day, and they didn't know him. And he goes, "It's the kid with the man. He's real smart. Man bun. You don't know that kid?"
Everybody's like, "Oh, James Rowe. Okay, got it."
Gotcha. Yeah. That's who it is. All right.
All right. That was a good one, though. Thank you for starting that out.
What else y'all want to ask?
Come forth. Nobody.
They're all scared. I thought y'all would be a little bit. Yeah, first period they didn't.
You guys are way too shy.
Speaking of,
Mr. Man Bun himself, James Rowe, everybody.
Say your name.
I'm James Rowe, and over time, Christianity has become more compatible with Western beliefs, and I think that it's Christian culture is Western culture. Do you think that Islam will ever be compatible with Western culture?
Compatible with our culture.
Compatible in the idea that it's widely accepted, or
Just like eventually, Christianity has bent to conform to Western culture.
Okay.
Do you think that Islam will ever be the same?
Okay.
So I've heard people say that Islam is going through their middle age period right now. They're going through, but it's been. I mean, they've had their Middle Ages as well. So obviously so we can talk about extremist group in any religion. If you take that aside, the fringe groups, the extremist groups, the people that, blow up themselves in the name of their religion. If you take that out of all religions, the core of Islam is the question. Can the core of Islam be able to coexist with Western culture without us thinking they're violating human rights? And
if we're talking about the religion itself, that's one thing. If you're talking about Eastern cultures and then a blending or a cultural diffusion between the two, then that's kind of a different story, really. Because if you look at the dynamics, I'm tying off what you just said. If you look at the dynamics between what Christianity is, what Judaism is, and what Islam is, they're really there's a streamlined section of thought that goes through all of those, and they tie themselves together through a commonality of certain history. Let's think about. I'm interested in your question quite a bit, actually, because you think about the idea that Christianity did not start off as a Western religion. Christianity is a Middle Eastern, or it's from the Levant region, actually, which we can tie in there. So, and it has to transform itself once it comes to Rome, and they decide what they're going to do right around that 380 mark or somewhere in there. As soon as Constantine converts, and then he says, we're going to do this, and it makes it legal to have that in the Roman Empire, and then we bounce that up just a little bit later on and make it the official religion. That's when you start seeing it blend in with the cultures that already existed as we're going through the Middle Ages. So it does go through a transformative event. And it was violent. There were, and we brought this up in the podcast we just did a little while ago. Christianity has been very militant in its spread, and to a certain extent, we can label this as Christian jihad throughout the Middle Ages, and a lot of people don't like to hear that terminology because it seems to offend their sensibilities. But if you go back and look at what was actually happening, that's what we were doing. The Christians were marching forward and conquering other people and slaughtering them en masse if they didn't cooperate and they didn't convert. You're going to be a Christian or you're not going to be here. And so for us to look around now as Western culture's accepted that and it's tamed itself out because the conquest moment's kind of over, and then you're sitting around trying to hold on to what you have, new groups that rise up, and granted, we have to also take into consideration that Islam is going to come up 622. Christianity is still getting itself together at that point too. So there could have been this moment where the two were very compatible and had worked together, but to answer the question thoroughly, what you end up having is a very different set of people culturally who are adhering to each part of that religion, and if they could have seen eye to eye culturally, then maybe these two religions would have blended out to begin with, or maybe even to get the Judaic element in there too. This is a trifecta of faith, actually, that people tend not to see it that way because of the cultural differences. So I don't know how easy that would be to take place, because there has to be an acceptance culturally, or a blending or a smoothing out, so to speak, or wear off those rough edges, and then we can all move forward with prosperity and peace. I think it's possible, but I don't know how probable it is.
Yeah, well, all religions tend to evolve over time to some degree to fit into the current. I mean, obviously, Christianity today is quite a bit different than it was 500 years ago.
Right.
We just did our torture day in world history. What was that, 2 days ago? And yeah, the Christians during the Spanish Inquisition, they were just as inventive as anyone in coming up with ways to torture people, into conversion or admit they're a heretic. So I used to give a pre-test, and I would say, what is the most pacifist, peaceful religion? And half my kids would put Christianity.
That's interesting.
Because they didn't know the Christian history.
I think, and another way we could tie this into the last podcast we did, the whole what would we look like in 2500. I think you could add this into that and kind of mix James' questions into that. If we just look at our Western American, European culture, whatever, will Islam, the true Islam, in 2500, will it be more accepted if we just say America is still here? Will that be more accepted 500 years from now?
And I think,
or will we progress that far to have Americans have this whole stigma out of their mind that all Muslims are radical? Will that change?
Don't you think, though, that it's much more common to find, if you were to look at Islam in the United States in particular, it's very moderate-minded. There's a lot of cultural cohesion, and people can get along perfectly well. But what we tend to see in the media is this hammering of this idea that Muslim radicals are the majority of people who are adherents to that faith, and that is absolutely not true. And I think that's part of what it's going to take too, is for us to change our actual depictions of what actually represents the different faiths, and then we find out that we have more in common than we thought we did. Then it makes a difference.
Yeah, and I think the way that Islam is going to come out of this is going to be Islamic reformers. It's going to be leaders of Islam reforming their own belief system. I mean,
but you see that in places like Iran that have been recent histories, seemingly bad guys when they stand up against people like Britain and the United States and Russia and whatever, and then we see guys like Rouhani who comes along as their new president, and he's a very moderate-minded guy as opposed to these hardcore sort of militant ayatollahs who've been there before. Now all of a sudden we see a difference in their posturing, which leads to a reckoning of sorts between countries like we have this 6-nation deal. We can talk about that too with the nuclear aspect of Iran's energy infrastructure and where that goes. Some people are very afraid of that because of the militant history they've had. But I think that maybe you're right about a middle-aged sort of thing that's going on. They're in transition. There's a lot of movement forward. The regular people in Iran, I've seen multiple interviews with just common folks and them writing out too, saying we want something different. We want closer ties with the West. We don't want to live in fear. We want to get along with a brotherhood of mankind as opposed to all of these people who are slaughtering. But the guys who blow stuff up get a lot of attention, and that's part of the problem.
Yep. All right. That's it. We
Great
rambled
question.
on, I guess. Enough about that question. Good question. What else? Next, anyone?
It doesn't have to pertain to. It doesn't have to really pertain to history, does it?
No, it can.
Okay.
As long as it's appropriate.
Okay. My name is Matthew Armstrong. In regards to the use and production of power, when we have all these forms of renewable energy, particularly the discovery of the element thorium during the development of the nuclear era, why do we continue to use factories that pump so much pollution into the air when we have much more efficient sources of energy?
Capitalism.
So we're so used to it. It's easy. You have so many.
It's got to be cost effective. I mean, money is the bottom line for anything. We talked a little bit about this in the last podcast about there's a lot of corporations that are going to lose billions when a new energy resource is developed in a way that it makes sense and it's cost effective and all that. And a lot of these company owners don't want to see that happen, even at the expense of environment or whatever.
If I am an energy company that deals in oil production, let's say, I make billions of dollars of profit every quarter of the financial year. And part of what I will do then is take a portion of my billions of dollars equals political power too. And so what you can then do is say, hey, congressman, hey, senator, we will lobbyists crawl throughout the corridors of our legislative body, and they will then promise money to campaigns. We will do certain favors for individuals, whatever that is, and what happens is that your energy situation is not going to change until we ban lobbyists from the halls of Congress that the money is infiltrating the legislation is what I'm saying. They're not going to pass laws to invest in cleaner energies or alternative energies because you are going to make mad the people who have already brought you to the power position that you're in. You're not going to be willing to risk that. Let's say that I'm a senator and I'm going to promote clean energy and I'm going to say that we need to quit giving money to tax breaks to oil industries or to the coal industry. Those boys are going to use every bit of power that they have and money against me that I cannot compete with. If I'm going to run my next campaign, I'm probably going to be out because they're going to fund an opponent that's going to keep them going. And that's part of the biggest reason why that doesn't change. And Congress won't pass those lobbying laws to keep those people out, or to at least clarify who they can hide. Actually, you aren't allowed to know which congressman and which senator is receiving.
Hey, let me stop you real quick. We just lost you. Oh no! I don't know why. Oh, you missed it. He just solved all the world's problems.
Great. What happened?
I don't know. Your mic just went out. So start checking your mic.
Mic check.
See, I don't know what happened. Can y'all share for a moment? Y'all might just have to pass it back and forth. Okay, we're having some technical issues on this podcast. That's awesome. Okay, you can. I don't know why your mic dropped out.
Maybe.
Yeah, and I could boost that, but y'all might just have to pass it back and forth.
All right. Did it get his question? I wonder even.
I think it got his question because I was looking at it, but
Okay.
did you tap me on the shoulder as soon as it went out? Yeah. So your response was limited.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll let you guys jump in. I'll feed back in a second.
He was basically, what was your basic point was the elimination of lobbyists, right? And the pressure that they put on congressmen. It's ridiculous to me that we live in 2015 and we can't find anything better than a combustible engine for a car.
Well, are y'all familiar with? I think the car company's Tesla. I think it calls
Oh, yeah.
itself Tesla. And what it is, it's a rather high-end vehicle as well. You pull a tray out of underneath the car, and it's just a row of batteries. And there are places in Europe that on next to the road you can pull your car in. It'll swap out this battery pack, and they'll recharge it. And everybody goes on. I think the problem in America is car makers aren't going to build widely accepted electric cars until some company is going to put charging stations along our roads, and nobody's going to put charging stations along our roads until someone builds cars. So it's kind of this catch-22 problem, which goes back to lobbyism as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a combination of congressmen stepping up and passing laws, and also cost-efficient innovation. I mean, we've got to come up with a better system. I mean, you're telling me that the best combustion engine can only get 40 miles to the gallon. Did y'all hear about, and I don't know, once again, y'all can Google and fact check this, but I heard that somebody came up with a car that could get, was it 200 miles to the gallon? Yeah, invented a car engine that could get 200 miles to the gallon.
I've heard what
you're talking about. And then all of a sudden, a week later, he dies and the car disappears. Now, whether that's true or not, once again, conspiracy theory. Yes?
Sorry, it was just something out on the car thing. In Europe, there's a company that produced a car. It's medium size. It's big enough to fit 2 people with a small storage in the back. It actually runs on compressed air with an engine and a small battery, and it's really fuel efficient. It has almost 0 carbon emission.
Yeah, I mean, making these cars attractive for people to buy is part of it. I mean,
I'll go ahead and kind of be this is probably my fault too. You have guys like me who hunters, and people like my brother who we like the idea of, we're going to drive this big truck. I mean, I'm at fault there. That's probably part of that too.
Well, I mean, it's not so much that that's a bad thing. But it's just so many people doing it. There's so many people with these cars. I mean, if you just think at the number of cars, combustion engines that we have around the world, the Earth can't take it. So, and we're going to use up the oil. It's funny is in 100 years, what are people going to say about us? When they look back at our generation, I think they're going to be thinking, wow, they knew the oil was running out, yet they couldn't get away from it. That's crazy. They knew it was going to run out.
I have to take that back to the money. I just believe that's the total, because money is power, and you're not going to take that away from those boys, because they will lobby against you so much. I mean, so we're going to bleed it dry. Basically, we're going to run it until we can't run it anymore. And then what we're going to find ourselves as problematically is that once is it on again? Once we get to that point where it's crisis situation and then we start making decisions, it's going to be too late. And then somebody else who's already taken those steps to try to build an infrastructure that runs on something other than what we have, we're going to be behind, and that's going to be problematic.
Try your mic again, see if it works.
Check.
Hey,
Check.
He's back.
There you go.
Wow, he's back with a vengeance. All right, so there you go. Well, what else?
That was a very good question.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Oh. Yeah, come on back up.
It's like more for the nuclear development era. Back when they were developing nuclear energy, they discovered 3 particular elements. It wasn't just uranium. It was also thorium and another element. I don't remember what it was called, but they had the option to pick between those 3 elements, and this was before we were completely embedded in using oil. And they had the option to continue with the development of these, but they chose not to, when thorium is 60% more efficient than any uranium isotope is, and it comes from the dirt. You could literally take a pound of dirt and get a small cubit of thorium about, I guess, the width of my thumb, and you could use it to power half of an entire city. Why would we have chosen to continue to use oil and ignore such efficient uses of energy all the way back then when we weren't even fully embedded in oil?
You want a conspiracy theory?
Conspiracy man.
All right. Conspiracy theory will be this: that's not a resource that we can monopolize. If it's in the dirt and anybody could get it, I can't corner that market. And why would I invest a company or a government resource in a non-controllable resource? I want to be able to make money with it. We are a capitalist society after all, and so I think maybe that's part of it, that it's too easy to get, and therefore it's so common that we couldn't have control over who gets it and who doesn't, who benefits from it. So I think maybe that's part of the reason.
This is the Edison electricity thing too. Tesla wanted electricity to be free,
right?
Because we can generate it. It should be free. We could just generate it to death. Yet there are companies that sprung up that decided to make money off of it, and so now we have electric bills and whatnot. You could make an argument that we shouldn't have to pay for electricity when we can generate it, but at the same time, there's a network of cost, running lines. There is some cost there, so I don't have my own generator, but I guess I could.
How much would it cost to give everybody in the country free electricity if we were going to do that? And the reason I bring that up is because I just saw the statistic on how much it's cost us in the past 14 years to stay in Afghanistan as long as we have. You'd like to know the statistic?
Oh my goodness.
I'd be interested in hearing that.
Nearly $900 billion in
cow.
14 years that we've spent in Afghanistan alone. That's not counting the extra things that we've done in Syria. It's not counting what we've done in North Africa. It's not counting what we've done in Iraq. It's not counting anything else. $890-something billion
This is
in
just
14
energy,
years.
just for.
And I'm saying if we took that money,
Okay.
because
yeah.
obviously we haven't really accomplished much because
Right.
Obama just announced that we're not leaving Afghanistan like we thought we were going to.
Right.
We're going to keep people there because it's too dangerous because people are coming back in. As soon as you leave, like the other guys are coming back in, right? That's what we've seen in Iraq. So we're going to stay there and try to hold on. But we're going to continue to funnel money into that system. What if we took that $900 billion, right, and
Just give everyone.
did
energy.
other? What else could we
Whatever,
do with
yeah.
that? That's my point. But to say that no, we can't have, you can't. We have to funnel that money to some other cause. I don't know. It's just and we can debate out why we're in Afghanistan. That's not really what I'm doing. But I just, as far as a money standpoint, that's what I wanted to talk about. What else could we do with that money that would be beneficial to our country specifically, as opposed to what we've been doing, which doesn't seem to have helped.
Yeah. How much money does it cost for a president to get elected?
Oh, man.
Right.
You know.
We're gonna spend millions of dollars to get a $400,000 a year job. There's something
That's
interesting
the worst
there.
job on the planet. Who would want to be? Would you want to be president?
No.
Anybody in here want to be president? Is that your dream?
Steve Lowry. If
Oh
he
yeah,
were
we're,
here, he
oh
would-
yeah, Steve.
not
He's
here.
homecoming. He's doing homecoming.
Oh, okay, yeah. That would be the worst job ever. Have y'all looked at presidents from the day one they took office to when they leave, how much they age? And every president.
Just the other day, I saw a picture of Obama, and I was like, man, I guess I hadn't seen one. I was like, man, it's really
Yeah.
affected him.
What was that? If somebody said if his hair got any whiter, the Tea Party would endorse it.
Ooh.
That's good.
Oh my.
Hey, that wasn't me. Somebody else said that.
Oh, well, no. How would you like to be the guy that every morning they wake you up with problems? There are problems.
Guess what?
There are
There's a
massive
problem.
problems. Wake up.
We
Wake up.
should fix this.
I don't want. That's not what I want.
How do you sleep as president? How do you even go to sleep at night?
You probably don't much.
Now that's probably what the aging thing. Why that takes. All right. Let's see what else. Anybody else?
Another questions for anyone? Okay.
All right,
We have about
bring it on.
4 minutes. Wow, those shorts. I wish this was a video podcast and you could see what Austin Simmons is wearing. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
All right, what do you guys think we need to do about ISIS?
We had an ISIS question last period.
Yeah. What do we need to do about ISIS? Let them stay here.
Where are they at? In
They're
this room?
here.
Who's the radical Islamic extremist here? Who is that?
Do you have like special goggles that let you see the ISIS members in?
That young lady over there. That's her in the green jacket.
Radicals.
All right, so the question is this. Listen, what is the United States' responsibility as far as dealing with ISIS, both maybe inside our borders, but also outside our borders? All right, I don't know. You want to take this? What job does the United States have in dealing with these?
Well, there's going to be some
Pesky people.
redneck. Some are going, we should just drop a bomb on them. Nuke them. Nuke them. I don't think
That's what
that's
Trump
an
said.
answer.
I will hit
Yeah.
them so hard.
We got a bunch of nukes. We ain't using them, man. They're sitting around getting dusty. They're getting old. We got to get some new ones in there. Take them out. Take them out right now.
I had a student
I don't know. Yeah. You
got
can't
loud,
drop a
sorry.
bomb in the middle of a country and be in
There's a thing called fallout. We can't.
right.
hospitals, that whole
Right.
thing the other day.
Innocent
Yeah,
people.
all right. So seriously, like, what could we do other than,
Okay.
we're allowing Russia to bomb them in Syria, or like that's what they say they're doing. They're not really doing that, but that's what they say they're doing.
What did Trump say? He said he wanted to let Russia handle it.
Let them take care of it.
Sure.
Yeah. Come on.
Come on up.
I mean, on your comment about Russia, the day that Russia started doing targeted strikes against ISIS in Syria, immediately followed by the U.S. bombing a hospital for Doctors Without Borders. So
That's okay. So what's the point you're making?
I'm just saying, like, maybe Russia's involvement against ISIS isn't that bad. Like, maybe they really are trying to help.
Okay, here's the problem with I don't have a problem with Russia targeting ISIS because they are a declared enemy of the United States and things we're trying to accomplish and people that we're trying to help accomplish things. They're enemies of those too. And they're destroyers of cultures and whatever. My problem with the Russian involvement is that they are targeting what they consider people they call terrorists, or anybody who is opposing Bashar al-Assad, who's the president of Syria. And so therefore what we're really doing is watching them bomb people that we have been funding and that we're
To prop
supporting
the
in
Syrian
right,
government.
well, right. So he's propping up from one side, we're propping up rebels from the other side, and what we're really doing is fighting a Cold War battle by proxy of saying that we're helping one side or the other. So they're really fighting against people that we are trying to aid, which ultimately ends up he's in a sense targeting us. And so you can call it what you want. And have they targeted some ISIS groups? Surely. But at the same time, a lot of the bombs that they've dropped targeting groups are not the groups that we would prefer them to target. And so then you have to come to some sort of what's the de-escalation on this, or vice versa. How does it escalate, and does it turn into something more disadvantage with a larger disadvantage for more people? So I don't know. Does it turn into something more? Is what I'm asking. So I hope that there's going to be some sort of coordinated effort between the two countries, ours and theirs, to say, what are the real goals. But Putin's stated goal is to support Assad and to keep him in power, and our stated mission is to see him overthrown. So there's a very there's a clash of interest there. It'll be it's intriguing to see where that's going to go. I don't know that it's going to be too.
Do you think
too
one
nice.
country will change their mind and end up cooperating, or do you think one country will admit defeat and pull out?
That's interesting too. I think that what could happen is that we both find a way to look good. And that's what it really takes. If we can find a win-win, like they like to say in politics, it's a win-win for all of us. If they can stop doing what they're doing and we can stop doing, at least change gears a little bit so that both sides feel like there's been a compromise and we've accomplished something, then maybe.
Honorably pull away. All right, well, listen, we're going to end this podcast just like we end every podcast. I'm going to do a standing double backflip. So as soon as
All right,
you
here it
witness
goes.
this, I want you to give me a big hand. Ready?
All right.
1, 2.
Oh, he did it! Oh, hey! That was amazing.
Thank you. Thank
Hey,
you.
so talented. I wish I could do that.
For a man that's 77 years old like you are, it's amazing that you
77
can
today,
do that.
everybody.
I can't believe
Take your
that
vitamins
you still
and
are
drink
that
your milk.
flexible and have that kind of strength.
All right, this is episode, I don't know how many we've done.
Five, yep.
Episode 5, History After Hours PC. You can follow us on Twitter at History Hours PC. We're going to upload this to YouTube, and you can search for History After Hours.
We bid you good day.
Goodbye.
Oh.